Thanks. Thanks, Caleb. And I'm sitting here talking to you. So I said, oh my gosh, okay, I'm okay. I have had a crazy day, so I didn't see a lot of the guy with the phone records. I saw a lot of the psychologist. I saw just about it all, but I was running around like a lunatic, and I have a really busy day tomorrow, so we'll see what happens there. But basically what the psychologist said was, there's nothing wrong with this lady. And then with the defense, I don't know where the heck he was going with. Is it talking about sexual predators, and what about the split, she have multiple personalities, dissociative identity disorder, right? And yeah, so not there was I found it interesting when she said that Gannon was found. Then apparently maybe her attorneys had told her before, maybe they objected to that, but she didn't have and the judge snapped today with the guys, because they were going, he's like, Judge, I wish you would tell him, because he was he was nice to me. It was a little nutty, but his line of questioning is kind of crazy. But now, okay, so I've been running around, and when I came home, then I hear some chatter in the Zoom about something with Bryan Kohberger, with exculpatory evidence or something that's going to get him off. So we're going to check that out, because I missed that. And we'll see what happens. Right, he said it first. Hi, Sunkist. Hi, 61. Hi, what's it doing in Colorado? What's the weather forecast, and do you think they'll have a 2-hour delay? It's so cold here today. Jimmy and I had to run down to the other house. I was freezing. Came home, took a hot shower, then I was freezing again. The weather is nutty. Do you think it's going to snow for them? School is at a 2-hour delay already? I wonder. And then they're off on Thursday, right? Hi, Dottie. Okay, well, let's take a look at this Bryan Kohberger mess. Okay, let's take a look at this mess from Bryan Kohberger. So, anyway, let's look at some other stuff too. In the Lori Vallow case, the Idaho prosecutors presented photos that showed Tylee Ryan's remains on her mother's husband, Chad Daybell's property back in 2020. Detective Rick Schmidt testified that he searched the fire pit and pet cemetery areas of Chad Daybell's property and discovered Tylee Ryan's remains, which included teeth, bone, and burnt flesh. He also testified that it appeared someone put concrete or cement in the ground to make it harder to recover Tylee's remains. During testimony later in the day, FBI agent Steve Daniels explained that photos presented to the court, which apparently showed Tylee's remains buried in the ground. The remains were discovered on June 9th of 2020, 9 months after Tylee and J.J. Vallow disappeared. At this point, we didn't know if this was an animal or human. We were trying to excavate it and get it out of the ground, said Daniels. Daniels said an anthropologist was with them as they dug up the gravesite. He claimed that it became clearer they were digging up a body when they located a large bone and the smell was consistent with human decomposition. With the size of the bone being found, I could also smell an odor I could associate with human remains decomposing. So between this bone being found and a second bone being found, the decision was then made not to use the tractor anymore. And this is East Idaho News that was reporting. Daniels also described Tylee Ryan's bones as being melted together. You could see the bigger bones were sticking out of the ground. The court was also shown pictures of the burial site after Tylee's remains were removed. Her remains were reportedly placed in a body bag and given to the coroner. JJ's remains were also located on Chad's property, though his body was in a plastic bag that was wrapped in plastic. His face, arms, wrists, and feet were wrapped with duct tape. Lori and Chad are charged with their murders, and Lori is now on trial for their murders for killing Chad's first wife, Tammy Daybell. Okay, let's see what else we've got here. Oh, wow, that killer clown. Remember that killer clown lady? She pled guilty. Remember that? I think they would always show it on ID Discovery or something, the killer clown. A woman accused of dressing like a clown and shooting her lover's wife in the face pled guilty to second-degree murder on Tuesday, 30 years after the infamous Florida murder. Circuit Judge Scott Saskauer accepted Sheila Keene Warren's plea in exchange for a 12-year prison sentence with credit for the 5.5 years she's been in jail since her 2017 arrest. Prosecutors allege that Keene Warren, who married used car dealer Michael Warren after his wife's death and moved with him to Virginia, knocked on Marlene Warren's door on May 26, 1990, dressed as a clown and holding flowers and balloons, and shot her in the face. Then she drove off in a white Chrysler LeBaron, which had reportedly been stolen from Michael Warren's used car lot a month earlier and was later found abandoned. Inside the car, investigators found red wig fibers and DNA that matched Keene Warren. Additionally, employees at Publix said they're the only store in the area that sold the "You're the Greatest" balloon that the killer gave to Marlene Warren, and said a person that matched the description of Keene Warren's description bought such a balloon from them. And employees at that store said they sold clown costumes, tentatively identified Keene Warren as the woman who bought a clown outfit and a wig from their store. This is Marlene Warren, the woman that was killed. Assistant State Attorney Reed Scott told Saskauer in court that Keene Warren, 59, pleaded guilty because she is guilty, but her attorney, Greg Rosenfeld, disputed that. After the sentencing hearing, which was squeezed in during a lunch break of another murder trial, Rosenfeld said plenty of innocent people plead guilty. The jury can get it wrong, and she was looking at life in prison. Instead, Florida law in place at the time of the murder means that Keen Warren will serve around 2 more years in prison, less time than she's already spent in the Palm Beach County Jail. Rosenfeld called the plea deal a huge win. We're thrilled with the resolution, he said. We're beyond that. Palm Beach County State Attorney Dave Arenberg said the day brought a measure of justice with the conviction and sentencing of Warren's killer. Keen Warren has finally been forced to admit that she was the one who dressed as a clown and took the life of an innocent victim. She will be a convicted murderer for the rest of her life. The decision to negotiate a guilty plea was made after considering the age of the 33-year-old case, particularly the death of key witnesses, Arenberg added. For example, the death of the lead crime scene investigator broke the chain of custody for critical evidence that could no longer be authenticated. Okay. Okay, let's look over here. What about the burner phones? FBI Special Agent Kevin Hoyland with the FBI Cellular Analysis Survey Team, CAST, was the first to take the witness stand on Tuesday. He pulled the data off the cell phones and applications that were used before, during, and after Gannon's disappearance. Hoyland broke down the analysis on 4 different phones that were used by Letecia. Some of those phones were burner phones. She allegedly purchased at least one of the burner phones at a Walmart store. That was the Walmart store in Trinidad after Gannon vanished. He also provided data taken from Gannon's phone and Harley's phone and data from a Life 360 app from one of the defendant's phones. Hold on one second. Following data in part was recovered on the day before and the day after of Gannon's disappearance. So on January 26, 2020, that was the day before he disappeared. That was this Sunday, the day they went to Garden of Gods. And it shows that Letecia messages her daughter Harley at work and tells her that Gannon had an accident in his pants while at the Garden of the Gods. Letecia left her home later that afternoon and texted Harley to tell her that they were out getting food. Harley's phone was traced to Massage Envy, that's where she worked, earlier in the day, and she returns home to the house after 10 p.m. Then, Monday, the day that Gannon disappears, Gannon's phone data indicates that his phone was at a Petco that morning, while Letecia's phone was left at home. Harley receives a message from Gannon's phone stating that she should contact his number if she needs anything since Letecia left her phone at home. Letecia sends Harley another text message at Massage Envy. Between 2 and 4 p.m., Letecia uses her phone numerous times. Between 6 and 7, she again uses her phone numerous times, including a call to Gannon's father, Al, and to 911 to report Gannon missing. Someone uses Gannon's phone while the El Paso County are at the Stauch home, following reports of him being missing. 2 calls were placed from Gannon's phone during the evening, and according to Hoyland, Gannon likely didn't make those calls, since Letecia had already reported him missing. Hoyland also presented data taken from the GPS of the vehicle, a rental cargo van, and an Ultima that was rented after Gannon's disappearance, and provided data on various locations that Letecia traveled in the following days. He indicated that while using her burner phone, Letecia used the *67 option to block her number when making calls. And after that, Dr. Christine Moore was testifying about like I said, the mental health services. She's a psychologist, clinical and forensic psychologist. And she said Letecia self-reported that she had been diagnosed with general anxiety disorder. And it seemed consistent with how she was presenting, but that Letecia herself denied any prior mental health treatment aside from general anxiety disorder. The doctor said she didn't see any signs of additional mental health issues, while a psychiatrist prescribed her an anti-anxiety medication. Okay, let me go to, let's find, okay. Okay, let's see. Now let's go look up this Bryan Kohberger stuff. One of the two roommates who survived the murders of 4 University of Idaho students in their off-campus residence in November is fighting a subpoena to appear as a preliminary hearing for suspect Bryan Kohberger. So let me get let's get the right graphic up here. Attorneys for Bethany Funke, 21, filed a motion Friday in district court in Washoe County, Nevada, Bethany's hometown, to quash a request by the suspect's public defender, according to court records obtained. Kohberger's hearing is scheduled for June 26th. Bethany's motion says there is no authority for an Idaho criminal defendant to summon a Nevada witness to Idaho for a preliminary hearing. Kohberger has to enter a plea for charges of 4 counts of first-degree murder and burglary in the November 13 fatal stabbings in Moscow of Madison Mogan, Kaylee Gonsalves, Zainer Kernadel, and Ethan Chapin. The suspect's attorneys argue that Bethany has information material to the charges against Mr. Kohberger. Portions of information Bethany has is exculpatory to the defendant, according to the affidavit signed by Richard Bittonti. The affidavit says Bethany was interviewed by police on several occasions, and she disclosed things she heard and things she saw. Bethany's motion argues that the defense statements claiming that Bethany has exculpatory information are without support, and there's no further information or detail pertaining to the substance of that testimony. Attorneys argue that even if Bethany has exculpatory information, it should not be presented at a preliminary hearing which is set to establish probable cause and which is not due to become a mini trial. A request for comment to Bethany's attorney, Kelly Ann Valoria, was not returned. Bethany and Dylan Mortensen, the other surviving roommate, lived on the first floor of the King Road residence. Then that's not correct. Dylan's room was on the second floor. She was on the same floor as Zaina. So that is not true. Not true. So, what kind of evidence could she have, according to her interview? I don't know. I don't think it's anything to get him off of this. Let me see something. Here's some of the comments that are on a article that I found about this Kohberger thing. So someone said, his attorneys argue that the housemaid's testimony is key to the trial and could clear the murder levied against their client. I don't really know why she doesn't want to testify other than perhaps the mental trauma, but it seems there's so much evidence against Kohberger that even if Jesus testified, the guy would still be found guilty. Someone said she doesn't want to testify because she had something to do with the murders. Why was no one on the top floor of the house? What do you mean no one was on the top floor of the house? Where she and another roommate were. What? This person doesn't even know what they're talking about. Someone said, maybe, maybe not. Every piece of evidence has not been shared. We know jack squat, really. Funky situation for sure, someone said. It seems there is so much evidence against him. That's what they said about the fake criminal Russian collusion. Oh, okay. Given only what the police have told us, Kohberger would not be convicted. The phone ping data is junk, and the DNA findings are highly suspicious. She'd be seen as a defense witness. Nope, someone said. Someone said, what has she got to hide? Why the resistance? If nothing else, the two survivors should be forced to testify, not only because they were at the scene, but because they waited many hours before calling 911. And all previous accounts said that there were people unconscious at the scene. Were they hiding, drugs, or did they have some knowledge about the murders? This has been fishy from the beginning and remains so. Someone says, what's fishy? The part about college kids living in a party house, shut the door, and went to sleep when they heard noise like they heard every night? The part about sleeping until noon when you're 21? DoorDash at 3:30 a.m., all normal in the life of 20-somethings, totally normal. Someone said fishy is one survivor saying she was so frightened after hearing the noises and seeing the masked man that she locked herself in the room, so afraid for her life that she went to sleep instead of calling 911. Makes zero sense. Someone said, you don't get it, do you? That was her way of shutting out the crazy party house environment by closing her door. It's not like people are being murdered left and right in Idaho. This isn't Chicago. Someone said she left her bedroom 3 times due to noises, and on the last time she encountered a masked man. Strangely, she didn't call the police. There can only be one explanation for that. The man was known to her. And he was expected that night because his former girlfriend had called him 10 times. What? Not really, because of heavy partying. Alcohol, downers, X, that's why. It's called the college experience and PTSD. Is it normal to call your friends over before you call the police? That's not what happened. First of all, I think Bethany didn't even find them or see the murder scene. She was spared that, and if so, thank God. She got up and went out the first level door. Didn't know about any of it. There's a bathroom on each floor. But per some leak, still in on floor 2, got up in. Hold on. Got up in the late morning, and she ran outside in terror when she saw part of the murder scene. It's a student neighborhood on a Sunday morning, and people were out walking around, including a friend who knew her. She was visibly very upset, trying to call 911 outside the house. But she was so traumatized that she was hyperventilating and couldn't get the words straight to either the police or her friend. And then she reportedly even passed out, so one of her friends outside called 911. Dylan was the unconscious person, and then another one went inside to find out what had freaked her out, and they found Ethan and Zaina and called police from there too. Maybe not the smartest person or ill-informed. Yes, for those kids, maybe not for you. Both survivors are legal adults. They're kids now with no sense. You are bending over backwards to explain the inexplicable. What's fishy is waiting for many hours to report the murders and not even say they were murders in the 911 call. Her words will have the weight of the world on them. She could easily tell the truth day in and day out, but that doesn't mean the defense can concoct some reasonable doubt from her testimony. Remember OJ? Remember OJ. OJ was purely jury nullification by ignorant. Okay, I'm not even going to go there. OJ was found innocent for a good reason. A detective lied and planted evidence. Dylan allegedly called friends she knew first about the bodies were discovered instead of law enforcement. Interesting information about Dylan's mom on the internet as well. What? Much more to this on the two surviving roommates. That has not come out yet. Agree, someone said. And someone said her housemates were brutally murdered with multiple stabs in a scene that experienced police officers said they've never seen anything like it. It was that horrific. For the survivors, it's been a traumatizing experience. She didn't even return to the campus and her home in multiple states away. And her home is multiple states away. Hold on. She has a life now, school and work probably. And they want her to fly out for a prelim, possible stay for many months into a trial, and they don't even want to explain. Come on. It's like harassing a witness, and they want her to sit in the room with a mass murderer who broke into her home and butchered almost everyone who lives there. Think about it. Do you have a son or daughter or sister? Do you have a daughter or sister? Personally, I feel like this is just posturing and nonsense from the defense and will come to nothing. Now the other roommate, Dylan, you know, the one who saw the murderer in her home and responded by locking the door and snoozing away 12 hours and still didn't bother calling anyone for help. When she woke up, that roommate is the one who is going to have to testify. They were both there, and both were aware, and as you pointed out, they waited many hours before contacting the authorities. For that reason alone, they should be compelled to testify, and experiencing trauma is not a valid reason for not testifying. What else are they hiding? Someone said they were hiding the fact that they were out of their minds with drugs and they had to straighten up before they started talking to the police. Standard operating procedure when your friend ODs. Well, they didn't OD, so neither did anyone there. So that's kind of ignorant comment. Someone said, I suspect drugs is the significant subtext of this horrifying tragedy even beforehand. So quick to make rationalizations. Someone said, who overdosed? It's not that she doesn't want to testify. It's that she doesn't want to testify at a preliminary hearing and be compelled to stay for months for a trial. It's unorthodox to have many states away, have to fly in and do that, especially if the defense isn't even disclosing what they specifically want to know. And they further want her to sit there for an indeterminate long period of time and with the person who broke into her home and butchered almost everyone living there. That's also known as harassment and intimidation of a witness. Plus, from what I understand, her testimony regards some rather standard factual information. For example, they came home at 2 a.m. by themselves. And information that's corroborated by other witnesses. That's about it. According to some leak, she got up the next day on the floor level 1 and left via the entrance on that level without ever seeing any part of the murder scene. So what is it the defense wants to know? Under discovery rules, it's my understanding that they have to disclose this information. Why should she do this without even knowing what they want to know? Bethany has only publicly said that she slept the entire night and next morning hearing and seeing nothing. Obviously, there is far more evidence and statements that we won't know of anything until the June hearing. It doesn't matter what she said publicly. OJ said he was innocent too. Plus, it keeps the case in the news. The guy is guilty and it will be proven. Neither should be seen by a jury as a defense witness. Someone said he either had those specific victims picked out, minus the boyfriend, maybe, or his choice of which ones he killed were random, and the reason he didn't kill them all was nerves or time constraints. Otherwise, the two girls alone in their rooms would have been easier targets than having to deal with two in each room. And from the other stuff we've read, the girl and her boyfriend were likely still awake since they had food delivered right before the murders. Plus, the two girls in the room together had a dog with them too, which was bound to make noise. Someone said, excellent point. Someone said, this is a complicated legal issue involving the laws of Idaho and Nevada, which may be in conflict with another about what grounds exist for challenging the validity of an out-of-state subpoena. There are so many inaccurate comments on this thread concerning this case. They are unworthy of a specific response. It appears that reading comprehension is no longer a requirement in order to graduate from high school. People are mixing up the two survivors' stories and drawing conclusions of what they experienced, how they should have reacted, and why one of them is not willing to testify for the defense. There are too many armchair detectives and amateur attorneys making absurd comments. You're assuming that people read the article. Obviously, many didn't, and more don't keep up with the case. Try reading an article about the stolen lecture. Okay, yeah, boy. Know she was always involved. I knew she was always involved. Someone said, oh, you cracked the case. Yeah, right, ridiculous. Another wacko conspiracy theory. These pages are full of them. If she gets one threat, you and your despicable are responsible. Of course, she's a material witness, but it's really hard to force an out-of-state witness to appear in another state. It would be easier if she has an Idaho address. He can take her deposition in Nevada and then use it at the preliminary hearing in June. The hearing will be a mother lode of new evidence about the crimes. She wasn't out of state when the murders occurred. She was there, so this argument doesn't stand up. I just don't like she'd be a defense witness. Either the prosecutor isn't calling her for some reason or he hasn't gotten to her yet. If she's a prosecution witness, she needs to testify for her friends. If she refuses, I'd suggest she has something to hide. State will pay for all expenses. She was able to attend school in Idaho. She can go back for a few days. I want to hear from Mortensen. Her story has always been bizarre. Both of the survivors are bizarre, someone says. I truly think if Dylan testifies, a significant percentage of this country will be transfixed. I can only compare it to a nation waiting for the O.J. Simpson verdict almost 30 years ago. My guess is she will have to admit everybody knew him and that he had been at the house before and admit that the other surviving roommate knew him. That's the only thing I can think of since she supposedly slept through everything. Or did she? Very interesting, though. She can get out of it easily. Get a doctor to exempt her on grounds the witness has a psychological problem and testifying can bring them back. She doesn't have to testify if it affects her health. Ask any judge. Now, this is very suspicious. Why doesn't she want to testify? What is she hiding? She doesn't want to testify for the defense. She's a prosecution witness, which will afford the defense to cross-examine her testimony. Never have I heard of a more suspicious behavior at a crime scene. They are hiding something for sure, and forcing them to testify under oath could collapse whatever story they've concocted. I guess no one here has ever lived with a bunch of roommates and been young. Things go bump in the night. People come and go at all hours. Roommates who are loud at night. You block out their outbursts of laughing, yelling, or crying. These people were ordering DoorDash at 3:30 a.m., so it would take a lot of noise to draw any concerns. What would have concerned me was the sudden quiet. I have 3 kids, and when they were living at home, I can tell you how many times I'd get out of bed to investigate some noise or another, and eventually I didn't bother. In college with 6 roommates, I'd have gone back to sleep. And it's not unusual for college kids to sleep until noon or even later. Nothing nefarious here. Except the one survivor of the two said she was so frightened she locked herself in a room. If that's true, why not call 911? Afraid for your life, yet goes to sleep? I can't make sense of it. As it stands, there's some strong circumstantial evidence against Kohberger and very little direct evidence. The DNA on the knife sheath is damning, though, subject to attack, with the testimony of Dylan about a guy with bushy eyebrows is questionable at best. Anybody notice how the affidavit dances around Dylan as an eyewitness? It doesn't say anything that Dylan identified Kohberger as the guy she saw. It only says that when the guy with the bushy eyebrows walked past Dylan in the dark, it led investigators to conclude that the murderer was leaving the house. I'm guessing investigators will have a lot more evidence at trial, such as the footprint, tire tracks, and other items, more specifically putting Kohberger in the vicinity at the time of the murders. There is speculation that one of the victim's ID cards was found among Kohberger's possessions. If true, that could be very damning. If that were my friends that were killed, like, nobody would have to drag me to court to testify. I would look forward to testifying to put the creep in jail for life. Except here the defense wants her testimony, not the prosecutor. She wouldn't be able to pick him out of a lineup or even identify him as the killer. Eyewitness testimony is so unreliable. The defense wants her on the stand to show that she cannot recognize him for sure because she never got a good look at his face. She can hurt the case more than help it at this point. And the defense attorney will rip her apart on the stand about her eyewitness testimony and their lifestyles. WTH, man, this is weird. I still want to know how one guy stabs 4 people to death in separate rooms without anyone else hearing anything. And what is this one hiding? One witness in the house, oblivious, okay, maybe, but 2 other people in the house where everyone says you can hear everything, plus an eyewitness to murder, not buying it. FBI detectives noted the outside audio security 50 feet away at another house from Xana's room was recorded whimpering, crying, and a thud. One would have to think that inside surviving roommates, sleeping or not, heard much more. This is a party house where there was noise into all hours of the night. If they get home late and have been drinking, they will sleep through a lot. I think Kohberger felt he could get away with a knife killing. My guess is he went in just targeting one sleeping girl, probably Madison, but then they were paired up and his original plan quickly went south. In my opinion, all of these young people were out drinking that night, probably came home passed out. However, I'm still confused as to one of them actually saw the killer and did nothing. Call the freaking police. I've been plenty drunk in my life, says this next commenter. Start stabbing me and I'm sobering up real fast. And yes, seeing a stranger after hearing weird noises, heck, I'm not going to speculate on this. It's bizarre. Yeah, I agree with you. It's just a bunch of weird circumstances that don't make any sense at all. If Kohberger's the killer, the prosecution better have a solid case against him because I think whoever did this won't stop after this killing. How would she know he was the killer when she didn't know anything she didn't know anyone had been killed? You're making a mental error called ex post facto reasoning, which you project things onto the actors that only became known to them later. I'm not saying she knew anything, except that she saw a stranger in a mask wandering through her house. Wouldn't that alarm you enough to call the police or call someone? Let's see. Red flags all over the field. Wow, clearly she knows something or she wouldn't be fighting this. I have felt that there has been some weirdness about this case from the start. Several things confuse me. He picks a limited number to brutally and animalistically murder, yet 2 girls are spared. Not only are they spared, they see the killer and he does nothing. Then they go back to bed. Hold on. They are not the ones who report the murders. Instead of the police, they call friends. The friends come and one of them calls the police. How does that happen in any real world? So I imagine he killed these 2 young people like a bloodthirsty animal, but I imagine there is more to this story. Why are people so enraged? She doesn't want to testify. It's the defense asking her to do so. And remember, Kohberger is innocent until proven guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. Anytime anyone gets up to the stand to testify at a trial like this, every word they say is weighed. There, of course, in the probability her words could sink him. But also, let's remember, OJ. Her words could also stage the scene for reasonable doubt. It's not about the trial. It's about the preliminary hearing where they decide whether or not there will be a trial. I think it's basically a mini trial, laying out all the information they have. Why fight it if she has nothing to hide or lie about? So you want her to testify, which may get the killer to be found innocent, which is why the defendant is wanting her as a witness. Why should she go out there without defense disclosing that what it is that they want to know? This is standard in discovery and something that defense has expected of the prosecution. It's supposed to be reciprocal. What a sad story. Kohberger is guilty AF. The defense is trying to muddy the water to create doubt in potential jurors' minds. All it will take is one juror to have doubt. The surviving roommates, okay, she doesn't want to testify to her own lack of action despite hearing cries and a masked man walking by her. That wasn't Dylan, that was, that was Dylan, not Bethany. No matter what I read, I still think there's something missing that we do not know. I've always suspected they have the wrong guy. Someone said, I think he was tracked by his cell phone, which was turned off during the murders. Brian's DNA on the button snap or knife sheath. They likely have his DNA from all over the swabs they took of the victims. Oh, what a nightmare for Miss Funky. Shouldn't she have to testify to her observations, even if they ultimately fail to exculpate the defendant? This is a quadruple murder. Seems all witnesses should be available to testify. This is no trial. Okay, so anyway. So that's what's going on there. And let me see where you guys are. I can't even find you. Okay, there you are. Maybe defense ploy, you say, we don't know how much police have talked with Bethany. We only have very limited information. Yes, yes, that's true. That's very, very true. Very, very true. What time is it? It's 1:12. It's 1:12. Hi, LMNW. Hello, Heart May Wise. I am so cold. It got so cold here. I'm just moving things over on my new phone. So I still have stuff to do on my new phone. Got to get my new phone set up. I've got to get some more stuff going on with it. Yeah, please hit the thumbs up. Thank you. It's 1:33? Oh, I thought it was 1:13. Oh, then we better go. I'm feeling really sleepy. And I have to be up soon. When did we get off last night? I said I'd get up soon to do the... I don't know, but I'm feeling really sleepy. And hi, Julianne Gonzalez. And I don't know if they're going to have a 2-hour delay or not. I don't know. But I got a bunch of stuff to do. A bunch of us have a lot of stuff to do. But we'll see you tomorrow. We don't know how many times they've talked with Bethany. We don't know what it is. Stuff comes out. Hi, Lisa L. Okay. But we'll see you guys. I've got to get some things done. I've got to get some stuff printed out. All right. I will talk to you later. Everybody have a good night. Bye. Thanks for coming. Hope to see you tomorrow. See you now. Bye-bye.